The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley, Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cutter, Danielson, Exum, Fields, Gardner, Janal,
Excused.
Gonzalez, Hanson, Hinrichsen, Jaquez Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Liston, Lundin, Marchman, Moreno, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Smallwood, Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Winter,
Excused.
Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. Morning roll call is 33 present, 0 absent, 2 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Thornton, who I think probably gets automatic citizenship in Peltonia, right, with this haircut? Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't know if I could thank you for that, Mr. President, but members, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Will.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of Friday, February 17th, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? No! The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
February 21st, 2023, correctly printed Senate Bills 163, 164, 165, 166, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 120, 121, 122, 123, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, and 142.
Committee reports.
February 17, 2023, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 76 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Favorable recommendation.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 167, Senators Winter F. and Will, Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez, concerning the regulation of certified midwives by the State Board of Nursing.
Health and Human Services. General orders. Second reading of bills. Consent calendar. Senator Bridges. Senator Bridges. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5.
Okay, thank you. Here we go.
While we all look sternly at Senator Bridges. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I move the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general order, second reading of bills, and consent calendar, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the code rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the titles of all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 57, Senators Rich, Representative Taggart, concerning the removal of the duty of county treasurers to be ex officio district treasurers for special purpose districts providing drainage and irrigation services. Senate Bill 68, Senators Pelton B. and Exon, concerning modifications to the operations of a public hospital board of trustees created by a board of county commissioners. Senate Bill 77, Senator Hinrichsen, concerning prohibiting the inclusion of certain terms in a broker engagement contract. House Bill 1034, Representatives Doherty and Soper, Senators Gonzalez and Simpson, concerning measures to expand post-conviction DNA testing. Senate Bill 100, Senator Gardner, Representative Snyder, concerning the Uniform Community Property Disposition at Death Act. Senate Bill 95, Senators Janal and Gardner, Representative Soper and Doherty, concerning criminalizing unlawfully pointing a laser device at an aircraft. Senate Bill 28, Senator Gonzalez, Representatives Epps and Soper, concerning the penalty for committing any of certain offenses involving the operation of a commercial vehicle. Senate Bill 90, Senator Gardner, Representative Snyder, concerning the enactment of the 2022 amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and their associated committee reports, which include Senate Bill 57 and the Local Government and Housing Committee report, Senate Bill 68 and the Local Government and Housing Committee report, Senate Bill 77 and the Local Government and Housing Committee report, House Bill 1034, Senate Bill 100, Senate Bill 95, Senate Bill 28 and the Judiciary Committee report, and Senate Bill 90 and the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of all the committee reports on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion of the bills? Seeing none, the motion for the Committee of the Whole is the adoption of all of the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those bills are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Committee will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 57 as amended, Senate Bill 68 as amended, Senate Bill 77 as amended, Senate Bill 100, Senate Bill 95, Senate Bill 28 as amended, Senate Bill 90 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1034 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1034 passed on second reading, order revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General orders, second reading of bills. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
I will, actually. The committee will come to order and the coat rule is relaxed for all. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 52?
Senate Bill 52, Senator Henriksen, concerning a municipal priority lien that survives the issuance of a treasurer's deed.
Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 52 and the corresponding Finance Committee report.
To the committee report. Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Finance Committee report is adopted. To the bill, any discussion? Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill seeks to address an area of statute that is silent when a city records a municipal lien and then certifies that lien. It has always been expected that that lien is then added to the county tax roll. Currently, though, there is no statute that explicitly specifies that, and we have a case where certain counties have opted not to accept that certified lien. This bill reconciles that deficiency and allows for cities to have equal footing with counties, and I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Hendrickson, I am the chair, not the president, although I appreciate the promotion. You will not be fined because I appreciate it. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Senator Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to this bill. As a former county treasurer, allowing a municipal lien to remain on a property could dissuade individuals from wanting to purchase tax liens if they know they might also be liable for a municipal lien as well. This came out of one issue in one county, and I don't believe that we should be passing a bill based on one county's problem. I ask for a no vote.
Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that the discussion that we've just had. What I would like to reiterate is that these are liens that are placed when a city goes in and remediates a property that has overgrown weeds and has been filled with trash and affects the properties around it. The inability for the city to collect on that inhibits its ability to further remediate those properties. It's an equity issue, and it has also become an investment issue where certain investors like that those liens fall off because they're not accepted by the county treasurers. They have their properties remediated, and they don't have to pay for that remediation. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 52. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? No. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 96?
Senate Bill 96, Senators Roberts and Lundin, Representatives Amabile and Soper, concerning policies relating to in-state tuition classification at state-sponsored, state-supported institutions of higher education.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 96 and the Education Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the committee, we adopted a couple amendments to add clarity to the portion of the bill regarding Peace Corps volunteers to make it clear that they are also eligible for in-state tuition regardless of how long they were in Colorado prior to serving.
Love the Peace Corps. Any further discussion?
Yeah. And thank you, Mr. Chair. One more amendment. We struck the portion of the bill that was referencing student athletes, so that is no longer in the bill in its entirety.
Thank you for the explanation of the committee report. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L003?
Amendment L003 by Senator Roberts.
Senator
Amendment.
Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L003 to Senate Bill 96.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment does good government. It provides additional transparency. It gives us the ability to understand exactly what's happening when we get into the broader discussion about the bill. This will increase the number of merit scholarships available in Colorado, the number of needs-based scholarships available, and also provides for the potential increase in out-of-state students joining in to the wonderful state of Colorado and our beautiful higher education system. But this amendment is a transparency amendment that just makes clear what's happening in the numbers of students of those various categories that I just described.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L003. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I'm excited to bring forward Senate Bill 96 with the minority leader. This is a bill that will expand access to higher education in Colorado and make it more affordable for our in-state students. In the changes that we're making in this bill, we will allow more merit-based and needs-based scholarships to be accessed by in-state students at our higher education institutions, and finding a way to pay for it through the admittance of more out-of-state students. We also, in this bill, are recognizing our Peace Corps volunteers that want to come to Colorado and get their education here after their service, similar to the way we honor our military veterans and other service members with in-state tuition. We would be adding Peace Corps volunteers to that list so that they can come to Colorado, get their higher education, and stay here after their time at our higher education institutions. This is a great bill to bring down costs for Coloradans and expand access to higher education.
Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You've heard of the Colorado paradox. We are a state that has a lot of graduates, individuals with baccalaureate degrees, but at the same time, we do not move as many students from our K-12 system into higher education as we would like. This is a bill that will help reduce, hopefully close that gap that is known as the Colorado paradox.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 96. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Bill 110?
Senate Bill 110, Senators Marchman and Zenzinger, Representatives Kipp and Taggart, concerning transparency for metropolitan districts.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move SB 23-110. I move
To the bill. Oh, and there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L020?
Amendment L020 by Senators Marchman and Zenzinger, amend printed bill
Senator
page 3.
Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L020.
To the amendment.
Members, this amendment adds some additional protections and language around the section of the bill that addresses the public meeting area. What we are doing is we are inserting some more requirements for public comment during the annual meeting as well as other meetings, in order to allow for more Q&A, public engagement. What this amendment does is it also brings forward a review of those unaudited financial statements showing the year-to-date revenue and expenditures of the Metropolitan District in relation to its adopted budget as amended, if applicable for that calendar year. And then in addition to that, it adds some language on page 4, line 12. We're striking districts' projects and we're substituting public infrastructure projects within the Metropolitan District. We believe that that makes the language a little bit more precise. Lastly, instead of having these provisions go into effect from metro districts that were formed in 2020, it substitutes the year 2000 so that it would be applicable to all metro districts that have been formed since the year 2000. We ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Zenzinger, for that very thorough description of L020. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and distinguished colleagues. I'm here this morning to ask for your support of SB 23-110. Creating more affordable housing is a priority for state and local government officials all across the state. We heard just a few short weeks ago from Governor Polis, who made it clear solving Colorado's affordability crisis requires a systematic approach. Colorado has a massive housing shortage, which is exacerbating our affordability challenges. Colorado has the nation's 7th highest underdevelopment estimate. It's short 127,000 housing units altogether, roughly the population of Westminster. We must do better for our residents. Metro districts are an important part of the affordability ecosystem and have helped thousands of Coloradans afford their new homes in communities with amenities like parks, open space, and infrastructure like streets and sewers that counties and municipalities can no longer pay for. Metro districts help to keep the cost of housing low by providing local governments access to low-cost capital for public infrastructure early in the development cycle. This increases the supply of housing, spreads the cost of public infrastructure out over time rather than building it into the total price of a home on day one, and ultimately helps to keep the cost of homes more affordable. As elected officials, I believe it's our responsibility to look at financing mechanisms like Metro districts critically and identify where there are measures that are necessary to ensure accountability for these local government entities or protections for the homeowners within their district. I believe it's also important as policy makers that we're precise in the measures we enact so we don't create unintended consequences, in this case, making it challenging for homes to be built and aggravating our housing challenges. Senate Bill 110 is the result of a bipartisan effort to identify important protections for homeowners, find areas that need greater transparency, and facilitate greater communication among residents and their Metro District board members. I'm pleased to be co-sponsoring this legislation with Senator Zenzinger, who started this important process of creating more accountability and transparencies in SB 21262, which is now state law and is going into effect as we speak. As we enter discussion on this important measure, I want to highlight briefly the sections and the problem each section is solving. Section 1 and Section 2 limit the mill levy and the debt limit in the county and municipality service plans that are provided at the beginning of the charter of the Metro District. Section 3 requires annual meetings for Metro districts with residential units. This section is the result of residents not being given a forum to directly engage with board members outside of a public hearing. Beginning with the 2023 calendar year, Metro districts formed after January 1, 2000 with residential units are required to hold an annual meeting that includes a presentation on the district's projects and outstanding debt with time for questions from community members. The meeting must be held in person, virtually, or both. For in-person meetings, the meeting must be within the district's boundaries. This section allows residents to dialogue directly with board members outside of a formal setting. Section 4. Section 4 deals with the developer debt. This section requires that any Metro District debt issued to a director or to an entity requires a conflicts disclosure filing by the director, receive a statement of a registered municipal advisor, a fiduciary to the district who is highly regulated by the SEC, certifying the interest rate of the debt is at or lower than market rates. Section 5 gives real estate disclosure for resale of residential property. Thanks again for the opportunity to present this important measure that will allow us to continue to develop homes for our teachers, firefighters, and our families, but puts in place important protections for our consumers and transparency measures for those living in a Metro District. I look forward to our discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, the question, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 110. There are important measures of transparency that this bill is putting forward to hold Metro districts to account. And yet, Section 4 of Senate Bill 110 moves around chairs on the Titanic. At this point, Section 4, as drafted, as introduced, contains a provision which is neither transparent nor a disclosure. What Section 4 does is it provides additional paperwork to harbor what I believe to be is an act imbued with a conflict of interest. Developers who issue bonds to themselves without meaningful opportunities for resident input. What Section 4 does is it ensures that a municipal advisor confirms that the debt being issued is within a certain interest rate. That in and of itself, which does not then ensure that the residents are made aware of the potential change. It does not ensure that the city and county, the city and county, or the county under which the initial service plan was initially approved is also made aware of then the debt that is thereafter issued. Y'all, this issue, Section 4 within Senate Bill 110, is rife with potential for abuse. I appreciate that there will be opportunity for public comment at the annual meeting. Because as introduced, and so I appreciate the amendment that the bill sponsors have offered. Because as introduced, Senate Bill 110 clarified that there was to be an annual public meeting at which no official business would be conducted, in which no public votes would be taken. And so with that, I have a whole stack of amendments that we could go through and spend the morning addressing. And at the end of the day, I think I've decided that for myself, for the constituents that I represent, for whom we have seen developers across my district, across the metro area, and across the state have no understanding of what these districts are, how they impact their costs to themselves, to their communities, when city councilors and county commissioners feel like they have no other option but to settle for these metro districts in order to build things under the auspices of, well, hopefully this will lead to more affordable housing. If that's what we have to settle for in this state, I think we can do better. I am grateful that in response to the reporting from multiple outlets across the state, that the Metro District Education Coalition, who brought forward lots of developers to come and testify in support of this bill, have finally decided to act. I am grateful for that work. I am grateful to my colleagues for bringing forward this bill. And yet, because of the way the provisions that exist within Section 4, because we're not saying, we're actually going to prohibit conflicts of interest, because Section 4 simply asks for a municipal advisor to go and double check to make sure that the interest issued falls underneath a certain percentage point and does not then trigger a requirement for residents to be made aware. This doesn't put this up to a vote of the residents. It allows the the board of directors to vote on this themselves, the residents will not have a voice in any part of the debt that the developer will obligate them to pay. For that, I ask for a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill. Senator Liston, colleagues, we have lots of time this morning. Folks are speaking. If you would like to speak, please come down into the well. If you raise your hand out at your desks, my vision's not great. I'm too vain to wear glasses. So please come to the well if you have something you'd like to say on a bill, and raise your hand down here where I can see you clearly. Senator Liston, you want to give it a go? Nope. All right, great. Seeing no further discussion then of Senate Bill 110, going once. The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
Question before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 52 is amended. Senate Bill 96 is amended. Senate Bill 110 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 52 is amended. Senate Bill 96 is amended. Senate Bill 110 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up the following bills on special orders consent calendar. House Bill 1053, Senate Bill 8, Senate Bill 12, Senate Bill 36, and Senate Bill 86. Colleagues, you will see that these are on your calendar for tomorrow, and you will also have a special orders calendar delivered to your desk. I did not say House Bill 1045, which is on the which is on the general orders consent calendar for tomorrow. There needs to be a small technical amendment, so that will be made on the regular general orders, regular special orders calendar here shortly. And Mr. President, I move that at the hour of 10:50 a.m.
The motion is that the Senate take up House Bill 1053 and Senate Bills 8, 12, 36, and 86 on special orders consent at the hour of 10:50 a.m. This does require a two-thirds majority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. The Senate will take up the bills listed on your special order second reading of bills consent calendar on special orders consent at the hour of 10:50 a.m. Special orders second reading of bills consent calendar. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the bills on the special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1053, Representatives Hartsock and Ortiz, Senators Zenzinger and Rich, concerning the authority to accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations, and in connection therewith, authorizing the Division of Veterans Affairs to expend gifts, grants, and donations in support of the Western Slope Military Veterans Cemetery, authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations in support of its purposes, in creating the Department of Public Safety Gifts, Grants, and Donations Fund. Senate Bill 8, Senator Moreno, Representative Lindsay, concerning opportunities for youth involvement in the review of the state's education standards. Senate Bill 12, Senator Winter F., Representatives Catlin and Froelich, concerning the enforcement of safety requirements for interstate motor vehicle carriers. Senate Bill 36, Senators Pelton B. and Cutter, Representatives Armagosa and Ortiz, concerning a change to the application process for the property tax exemption for veterans with a disability. Senate Bill 86, Senator Hansen, concerning Student Leaders Institute modernization.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the special orders consent calendar and their associated committee reports, which includes House Bill 1053, Senate Bill 8, and the Education and Appropriations Committee reports, Senate Bill 12, and the Transportation and Energy and Appropriation Committee reports, Senate Bill 36 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report, and Senate Bill 86 and the Education and Appropriations Committee reports.
Seeing no discussion of the committee reports, the question before us is the adoption of those reports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those reports are adopted. Seeing no discussion of the bills on the consent calendar, the question before us is the adoption of those bills. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those bills are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report. I have so many things. I don't know which is mine.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 8 is amended, Senate Bill 12 is amended, Senate Bill 36 is amended, Senate Bill 86 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1053 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1053 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up the following bills on special orders at the hour of 10:54 a.m. Senate Bill 35 and House Bill 1045.
The motion is that the Senate take up Senate Bill 35 and House Bill 1045 on special orders at the hour of 10:54 a.m. This requires a two-thirds majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will take up Senate Bill 35 and House Bill 1045 on special orders at the hour of 10:54 a.m. Special orders, second reading of bills. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
The committee will come to order, and the code rule is relaxed. Would the clerk please read the title, Senate Bill 35?
Senate Bill 35, Senators Bridges and Moreno, Representative Herod, concerning the operation of the Middle Income Housing Authority and in connection therewith, adding members to the Board of Directors and expanding the power of the authority to enter into public-private partnerships.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 35 and the Local Government and Housing Committee report.
To the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Local Government and Housing Committee, we made some adjustments to the structure of the Middle Housing Authority Board of Directors. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate the bill. Just a couple questions about it. Under current law, the Middle Income Housing Authority, the MIHA, has the power to enter into public-private partnerships. The bill clarifies some of those powers, and it specifies that the affordable rental housing component of the public-private partnership is exempt from state and local taxation. I'm curious, here's the question, if there is an understanding of what that asset base that is taken out of taxation may be, how large that might be. That's question one. Question two, it goes on then, this bill, as it clarifies the authorities, to give the public-private partnership the ability to transfer the interest in an affordable rental housing project to an entity other than the authority. Could that be Lundin Incorporated, is question number two. And I'll just leave those two questions before we let it get too complicated.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the questions, Senator. The answer to those both go back to Senate Bill 232 from last year, which allowed the creation of the Middle Income Housing Authority and all of the units that are built by the Middle Income Housing Authority under the auspices of the Middle Income Housing Authority will be built in the tax-free way described here. The challenge, the reason we need this bill, is because I believe that the Middle Income Housing Authority has the ability to enter into public-private partnerships right now, but the intent was never to have the commercial space in those developments be tax-free, right? We have a serious problem here in Colorado with a lack of middle-income housing. Part of how we're addressing that is by using tax-free bonds to build these developments, which will be rental, not for sale, unless we can figure out a mechanism for that, but will always be affordable for those folks earning between 80 and 120% of area median income. Now, we did allow in that bill incidental commercial development, and we were approached, the authority was approached by folks who wanted to know if that tax-free status could be applied to the commercial development as well. I think really clearly that's not in the interest of the state. We want to make sure that those middle-income units are built. We want to build as many of them as we can. But if the first floor is a grocery store or a coffee shop or something like that, that part should not be tax-free. So that's what this specifies. It specifies that someone else, public-private partnership, can own that commercial space while the Middle Income Housing Authority maintains ownership of the affordable housing units in that development. So it is both explicitly allowing, which I think was already allowed for, but then explicitly curtailing what it is that can be done in a public-private partnership for the Middle Income Housing Authority.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. I like the fact that it's narrowing rather than broadening, but the question remains, do we have an understanding of how large the non-taxable base, what's the asset base that is being created with this instrument, the Middle Income Housing Authority? And then question two, the transfer of that portion, is it transferable to any entity, for-profit, not-for-profit, governmental, non-governmental, et cetera?
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, the answer to those questions lies with Senate Bill 232 from last year. First of all, this is a pilot project, so it is limited to 3,500 units initially, so there will be no more than that as a total base. And then the answer to the second question is really, I think, deeply related to the fact that all of these have to be approved by local municipalities and counties. So counties and municipalities have to opt into this program. So they know going in that they will be foregoing some amount of property tax in order to get what they desperately need, which is more middle-income housing. We need to build. And this bill helps to make sure that we have the tools we need to incentivize developers to build in that middle-income housing space. Again, this bill, though, is explicitly focused just on this public-private partnership piece, not on the sort of broader, larger mechanism that we passed last year. So this just allows that public-private partnership. It explicitly puts 2 legislators on the board and allows the Middle-Income Housing Authority some flexibility in staffing. That's all this bill does.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So then my question would be, a municipality cannot forego the property taxes for a county, correct?
Correct. Yeah, both have to consent.
Seeing Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, yes, correct. Both representatives of the county and the representatives of the municipality both must collectively join together and say, yes, we would like for this to happen. One cannot speak for the other.
Senator Lundin.
One last run at the transferability question, and I can go back to the original bill to discern that myself, but I'm curious if the legislator understands what that might be.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The transfer is possible, but all the tax benefits disappear if that transfer takes place. So for instance, that lowers the risk per development. So if we're building something using the Middle Income Housing Authority's sort of auspices, there are some tax benefits to doing that. But if it turns out that that project is just simply not going to work at that rate, at that 80 to 120% AMI rate, that project itself can be sold, which lowers the risk to the people who are buying the bonds, ensures that those units will actually be developed and lived in, even though they may not be middle income units. However, the bill does require that the first folks that have the right to get that purchase is the county or a local housing authority, some way to try and maintain the affordability of those units. So there is a process that has to be gone through. There's a process that must be undergone in order for those units to be sold before Lundin Inc. could take control.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for those answers around the county government piece of that. Being a former county commissioner, very sensitive to that. I want to know, with the tax savings or tax exemptions, what's that going to do to the school districts in that community, and who will backfill those taxes?
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is a great question. The answer is teachers will have a place to live. That's the goal of this bill, of last year's bill, the Middle Income Housing Authority. The goal is to help nurses, teachers, and firefighters actually afford to live in the communities where they work. So there will be some small amount of property taxes that municipalities, that school districts, that counties will forego in order to build these units. But I expect, I hope, that there will be school districts that explicitly engage in the Middle Income Housing Authority to perhaps bring land to the table. The development is financed through these municipal bonds purchased through the Middle Income Housing Authority, and then it is teachers that primarily end up in those units that are developed. This is explicitly to try and help make sure that people can live where they work, and it uses a tax incentive to create a market incentive to solve a really pressing public problem that we have here in the state.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate that answer. The people that will be left out are those teachers that already own a home in those communities, and they're not going to be getting the benefit while they still have a lower pay scale. So that's my pressing question. Another one is, is this just another step towards total government housing? Because, where does it stop? First is low income, now middle income. So just that concern.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the Middle Income Housing Authority again today. So, you raise a really important question about the difference between what we're doing here and what we're doing with low-income housing. So, with low-income housing, there are both federal funds and a whole lot of state money that we set aside last year to finance the development of those projects. And that is explicitly development that is being paid for by the government. That is not what's happening here in this. What's happening here in this is that we're recognizing that affordable housing for nurses, teachers, and firefighters, housing that is affordable for middle-income Coloradans, is a public good. It's something we need. You can't, every Coloradan should be able to live where they work. And middle-income folks can actually pay the development costs of these projects. So you can charge a rent that covers your costs, but what we have right now is a market that is focused almost exclusively on market rate housing, and there's just no incentive to develop in that middle income housing space. And so we're creating that market incentive, but we're not actually putting government dollars at risk to do it. All of these projects will be privately financed through privately purchased municipal bonds, or they may have some participation from, say, a school district or local housing authority or a municipality if they bring something to the table as part of that. But primarily, this is creating a market incentive. And if the project's not going to pencil out, no one's going to buy those bonds. So we're creating a market incentive to solve a problem that faces Coloradans. It is a unique solution. It is a pilot project. My hope is that it is very successful. But no, this is not the kind of government housing that you think of when you think of government housing, like LIHTC-funded housing, like low-income housing. So appreciate the question, appreciate the conversation.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 35. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the Title II, House Bill 1045?
House Bill 1045, Representatives Evans and Marshall, Senators Pelton B. and Hendrickson, concerning leave from employment for state military service.
Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1045 and the corresponding State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report.
I don't show there's a committee report, so to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in committee, I presented the need for this clarifying language of stature so that we can adequately protect the leave benefits of Colorado National Guardsmen in the way that we intended to. It was a riveting speech, and the committee moved immediately to pass it unanimously before I possibly had time to offer the technical amendment that was necessary. Madam Chair, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I also am offering that amendment now.
There is an amendment hovering above the desk, and it has now landed on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L002?
Amendment L002, Senator Pelton B. and Greengross, bill page
Senator
411.
Heinrichson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, this is just a technical amendment that ensures that we're preserving language that deals with the protection of the Guardsmen's employment after they come off of a period of active duty. I ask for an aye vote on this amendment, and I move the amendment.
Thank you for moving the amendment. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Amendment L002. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Seeing no further discussion on the bill, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1045. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The aye has it, and the body will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 35 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1045 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate. Whoop. Where are we? The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 35 is amended, passed on second reading, order, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1045 is amended, passed on second reading, order, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Bridges?
Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 119?
Senate Bill 119, Senator Zenzinger, Representative Byrd, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Human Services.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 119. Which one is that?
Senator Zenzinger, can you explain yourself?
I think you meant the bill. It's Human Services, it's about SNAP.
So what the House did was amend the bill to add an additional $14 million to the department in order to address the cliff effect that will be happening very soon with regard to SNAP benefits. And we ask for your support.
Is there any discussion? Senator Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you so much to the Governor's Office, JBC, and the department for working so hard to provide extra food, given the SNAP cliff effect that's going to be occurring. And I just want to give kudos to everyone for working behind the scenes to ensure that there'll be 1/3 will go to the food pantries and 2/3 will go to the food banks. We recognize the need all the way around, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to get additional funding as we move forward, because there's still a real significant need to fund hunger in Colorado. So thank you.
Senator Malika.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to echo what Senator Cutter said. We had a bill up in our committee, and it was a little contentious, but we were able to, I think, really come up with some funding, and really thank the JBC and governor's staff and the coalition out there to really make sure that we were getting funding not only for food pantries, but for food banks, and roughly looking like $10 million for food banks and $4 million for food pantries going forward for some families and some Coloradans that really need help. And having these entities march forward together, I think, is really important, rather than fighting each other for money. And so really appreciate the work that's happening here, and would urge an aye vote on this supplemental.
Senator Malika, I don't know what they do in Peltonia.
But I'm good with it.
She is the good senator from Jefferson County to you. That'll be $2.50.
I actually.
Further discussion, Senator Zenzinger. Nope. The motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 119. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Smallwood. Liston.
Is just graduating because they're the two tallest people.
With a vote of 30 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the motion is adopted. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 119.
The motion is for the repassage of Senate Bill 119. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Smallwood, Liston.
You're against old people?
Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner.
You're 63, you should be for this.
With a vote of 27 ayes, 6 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 119 is repassed. Co-sponsors.
Human Services, you might want to co-sponsor.
It's a good one.
Just saying.
Senators Mullica, Exum, Sullivan, Cutter, Buckner, Priola. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 124?
Senate Bill 124, Senator Zenzinger, Representative Burt, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Local Affairs.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 124.
Senator Zenzinger, will you explain the amendments?
I will. So in Senate Bill 124 with the Department of Local Affairs, we found a way to put some additional funding towards the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. However, we had to add an amendment in the House that would clarify in a footnote that that amount that we added, which is one-time funding, would not count towards the total funding for the maintenance of effort that would be calculated towards Proposition 123.
Is there any further discussion? The motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 124. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Minority Leader Lundin. With a vote of 31 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the motion is adopted. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 124.
The motion is the repassage of Senate Bill 124. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Smallwood, Baisley, Liston. With a vote of 29 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 124 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Senators Henriksen, Marchman, Jaquez Lewis, Exum. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 125?
Senate Bill 125, Senator Zenzinger, Representative Burt, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 125.
Senator Zenzinger, will you explain the amendments?
Yes, the House added an amendment to include an additional $10,000 for veterans, memorial, and burial services.
Is there any discussion? Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. To be clear, a no vote on concurrence would be to vote against $10,000 to help with the funerals for veterans of our armed services.
The motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 125. Are there any no votes?
Come on, come on.
With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the motion is adopted. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 125.
The motion is the repassage of Senate Bill 125. Are there any no votes?
Oh, that's right, they're elderly and disabled.
With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 125 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Senators Henriksen, Marchman, Exum, Mullica, Simpson. Pelton B. Pelton R. Liston. Minority Leader Lundin. Bridges.
Oh, aren't we on it? Yeah, we are. What are you doing?
Gardner.
You're on it.
Will.
Stop Jeff and I.
Rich. Baisley.
I'm gonna get.
Sullivan. Cutter. Buckner. Priola. Roberts. Message from the House.
February 21st, 2023, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1090, 1037, 1137, 1141, 1125, amended as printed in House Journal February 17, 2023. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1011, amended as printed in House Journal February 17, 2023, amended on third reading and printed as printed in House Journal February 21st, 2023.
Message from the Reviser.
February 21st, 2023, we herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1011, 1037, 1090, 1125, 1137, and 1141.
Announcements. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, there was an error in the printed journal, but the online calendar was correct. Today, at Tuesday, February 21st, in the old Supreme Court chamber at 2 o'clock, we'll be hearing confirmations for the State Electrical Board, Christopher Butler, Elva Lynch, Jeremy Sanchez, confirmations for the State Plumbing Board, Justin Guerrero, and confirmation for the Uninsured Employer Board, Roger Hayes, as well as listening to Senate Bill 105. See you at 2 o'clock.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the Senate Local Government and Housing Committee will be meeting 2 p.m. in Senate Committee Room 352. We will be have confirmation hearings for members of the Middle Income Housing Authority. We will not be hearing Senate Bill 148. Instead, we will be hearing House Bill 1023 with Senator Roberts, Senator Gardner, special districts construction contracts. Thank you.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is Engineers Week. In case you didn't know, Engineers Week. We have, like those, I think we have 2 or 3 professional engineers. These are the men and women who build our roads, our bridges. They're sworn to safety and so forth. And to get to know us better and vice versa, there is a reception tonight from 5 to 7 at the University Club. And we're invited, and they would love to come, have us come and meet them, the professional engineers of Colorado. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Mullica. Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Finance Committee will be meeting this afternoon. Just one change, we will not be hearing Senate Bill 104 today.
Further announcements. Senator Smallwood, do you have anything to announce? Let's hear it. Senator Smallwood, for an announcement.
Sir Coleman, you can just lay that over in committee. You guys don't have to make an announcement.
Cool. There we go.
Huh. Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know you and I talked about this last year, and we're pretty, if I remember correctly, there was a sense of disappointment that you had missed the German celebration of Fasching last year. So I just want to remind you that today is, in Bavaria, Fasching, Fat Tuesday for those of us here in the Western Hemisphere. And if you'd like to stop by my office, I have some non-alcoholic Glühwein that I'm warming up, and glad to get you a small Dixie cup full. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Smallwood, for that important announcement. Senator Kirkmeyer, do you have an announcement for us?
I can't find it yet. I'm going to get there. My phone's not working right.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5.
Thank you.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need a moment of personal privilege, please.
Granted.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I just want to announce, I'm very proud of this young man from Fort Lupton, which is in Weld County. Dimitri Garza Alcaron became the third three-time champion in the program history. This young man on Saturday night at Ball Arena planted the latest feather in his cap when he earned a 2-1 decision against Mullins' scrappy freshman to win the championship, Class 3A State Wrestling Championship for 138 pounds, and it was the final. So very proud of this young man. It's a great job, and it's a great day for him. Thanks.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I don't have the names of the young people, but there were 7 individuals in Senate District 35 that won at state wrestling, and 2 of them were girls from El Paso County.
Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we're going to talk about wrestling, my alma mater, Skyview High School, Isaac Ibarra, won the 3A title for 150 pounds, and just want to wish him congratulations on a well-fought season and for the first state title for Skyview since 1998. Thank you.
Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. Not on yet. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for that break. In the spirit of transparency and fairness, Senate Bill 105 that will be heard today, we will be hearing testimony. We will not be taking action on it in case anybody got confused about if they could be here for testimony, that we'll be laying it over. But the bill will be heard. There will be testimony. We will then reschedule it in case anybody else missed to come in and testify again. Thank you. Hope that answers any questions. If not, call another senatorial file.
Thank you. Mr. Majority Leader.
We all set? Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further announcements. Sorry. Mr. President, may I request a senatorial 5?
We have the same issue.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5 again. Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. We apparently also had a calendar issue on House Bill 1023, so we will be taking testimony for that bill, but we will lay the vote over. Thank you. And this is in Local Government Housing today at 2 p.m. in Committee Room 352.
Great. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now seeing no further announcements, I move that the Senate adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, February 22nd at 9 a.m.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, February 22nd.